What's up guys, Aroneous here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today's video I want to talk a little bit about the new Raid Digest that came out today, and I'm going to be a little furious, and I'm sure all of you out there will be a little bit furious as well if this happens to specific blessings in the game. So let's get into it. So before I get into the blessings and the Raid Digest and what's going to happen soon, first I'm going to go ahead and pull from the Altar of Souls here. What can we get? Hopefully a legendary. Okay, that's a rare. It's not a legendary. 4-star Grappler. Probably never going to build him. 2-star Confessor. Another Trash Champion. Epic. Here we go. 4-star Gorgorab. That's actually not that bad. I like that. That's actually not a bad pull. What else are we getting? Another rare. Interceptor, never building her. Another rare. Come on now. Boltsmith. Another epic. Here we go. Bushi. Interesting. I do have Bushi. I'm actually interested in building Bushi, even though he's not that great. But not anytime soon. So I did get Gorgorab, so that was pretty cool. I might as well awaken Gorgorab, right? He's at least worth it, in my opinion. You do pull a 4-star soul like that, that's pretty crazy. So we'll take it. I just don't know what I'm going to do for a blessing right now. You know what? We do have the 2x event going on for Kymar. 2x, 10x. I might pull this bad boy. Let's do it. One time, no whammy. Did I do what's right? I did not do what was right, guys. Don't do what I just did. Save them for the next fusion. I thought I was lucky, but I'm not very lucky, so I guess it is what it is. I did, however, get the 500 points there, which is meh. It's not terrible, but it's not great either. Let me know how you guys are doing in the Lunar Deck of Fate. So far, so good for me. I've actually gotten 2 rare books, and then of course every time you flip these over you get what's behind it. So I got 75 gems already, so almost 2 energy refills, 2 rare books because I pulled 1 2 3 and then 1 2 3, so not bad. And there's 17 greens of the, I think it's uncommon, and there's, I think, let me just check this real quickly, 17 greens for commons, 13 rare cards, and 10 epic cards. So as I pull more and more of the commons here, which is nice, right, because it's getting them out of the way, I have more of a chance of getting the rare ones flipped correctly, or the epic ones flipped correctly, which is pretty sweet. I really, really want to get a triple of the epic, though. I want to get a shot at getting something good like a Sacred Shard. So anyways, that being said, let me move over to the Raid Digest. I'm going to pop that up on the window here in a second. Alright, so I'm just going to pop this open for you guys so you can see it a little bit better. So basically, we've got different fixes coming. List of bugs that are going to be eliminated in the nearest update. If you qualify for some player and play points in the lower streak of the playtime rewards, a red dot indicator should not appear on the playtime rewards icon, meanwhile in the mobile application. So obviously, if you're on a mobile phone, you shouldn't be able to see that because these player and play points are just specific to people who have it on PC, who have the player and play on PC, and people on their mobile phones do not. Visual bugs caused by the interaction of Taurus the Fierce with blessings. Meh, I don't really, a lot of people probably don't even see this because most people don't have Taurus in gold or below. Visual bugs with Ultimate Death Knight's HP bar. I did notice this a lot with the visual bugs with Death Knight. Like, I literally thought that he's been dead for like at least 30 seconds straight and he just wouldn't die with like 1% HP. So that's a good fix. Furthermore, we're going to slightly enhance some blessings, making them a more viable choice. On the other hand, a couple of others currently considered overpowered by many will become more balanced while retaining their usefulness. Okay, so I'm going to get into this, but we also have Clan vs. Clan coming up this upcoming Tuesday. It will feature personal rewards. So that's kind of cool. Now, coming back to you guys, I want to go into the tavern here and just talk a little bit about the different blessings that we have going on, right? So blessings here, we've got intimidating presence. Is this overpowered for a legendary blessing? Now, maxed out, strengthens your team's aura by 35% and weakens the enemy's aura by 20%. That is pretty powerful. You could definitely get a leg up. I think it's best for free-to-play players, low-spend players, to be able to compete a little bit more with the mid-spend, high-spend, just spending players in general. So like for myself, having this is super beneficial for me with the extra defense, HP, resistance, and definitely the 10 speed if I get her to a 6-star awakening. So not a bad blessing. I don't personally think it's overpowered. I mean, I guess they could potentially think that, but I don't feel like this is an overpowered blessing. But who knows? It could be. If I were to change the blessing, so lightning orb as a legendary or lightning cage, this is not overpowered. This blessing, I've faced plenty of people with it, and it's not overpowered at all. Let's see, temporal chains. This thing could be potentially overpowered because temporal chains decrease this each enemy's speed for each active buff they're under. High awakening. Whenever an enemy receives a third active buff, instantly decreases the turn meters of all enemies of a certain amount by a certain amount. And it's a 4-turn cooldown. So that's already a really long cooldown, actually, now that I think about it. Whenever an enemy receives a third active buff. So I'm interested into knowing if it counts with just one enemy only. So say that they get one buff on each enemy, right? Each ally. Would that be counted towards 3 active buffs or 4 active buffs in Arena? Leave it in the comments down below if you know that, or if it has to be 3 buffs on a single champion that's on an enemy team. I'm assuming it would count up based on just total buffs on their team to begin with, but if you're facing a Duchess or if you're facing other champions, they're going to be not as fast anyways, and usually they're go second teams, so I don't know if that makes a massive difference if you're facing them as an offense, facing a defense. But if you're an offense team facing a defense team and they have this, that's pretty annoying, right? Because it just makes the defense even that much better with a person that has temporal chains. And I heard that these stack. So if they're stackable and you can put them on 3 or even 4 champions, that's super crazy. So you basically, it eliminates, or hopefully would eliminate, basically someone attacking you from bringing in a buff champion. So like if you brought in a Mithrala, or if you brought in a Duchess, for example, or any new champions, Pythion, for example, who places the block debuffs buff, right? And that would potentially cause an issue because it would make your team go slower. Now, of course, at a 2-star, it's only decreases enemy speed by 2% for each active buff up to 6%, which actually that's a lot for a 1-star blessing. And then right here at a 6-star blessing, instantly decreases the turn meter of all enemies by 15% whenever an enemy receives a third active buff. So that's a very strong ability. Now I feel like they could potentially drop this down to like maybe 10%, maybe 5%, or just make it so it doesn't stack. Okay, that would make more sense. Make it so you can't have multiple allies with the same ability. Ward of the Fallen. Honestly, this one, they need to buff this one with the bone armor. I've faced a lot of people with it. It just doesn't do enough for your team. Life Harvest. This is kind of trash also. Not a huge fan. Destroy enemy max HP by 20%. Fills 15% of this champion's turn meter. So it destroys enemies max HP by a certain amount whenever they are revived. I just don't think this is really worth it. But could this become meta someday if people actually are big brain enough? I don't know. I don't really think so. Because it's good for defense. Like if you put it on a defense-based champion where they have HP resistance, and then you're kind of hoping that one of their allies dies on the enemy team if your team is on defense with this, and then destroys the max HP by 20% when they're brought back to life, fills that specific champion's turn meter by 15%. I mean, it's okay. I don't think it's insane. It would be actually halfway decent. Maybe it would be halfway decent on a damage dealer. So if you kill someone with the damage dealer and then they get revived, whenever enemies are revived, partially fills this champion's turn meter for each enemy revived. But it doesn't actually work until Awakening 3, the third tier. 5% of this champion's turn meter. This could be good, like really good, actually, on a Skull Crown, technically. I'm surprised people are probably saying it's trash because they just don't realize what they could use it for, but you could, you could make a case that this is usable. Soul Reap, obviously, a lot of people put this on because of the Reaper that comes out if they get below a certain amount of HP threshold right here. So if the target gets to 4%, it's not super strong on 1 star, but if you can get it to 3 star or higher, then it becomes very strong, right? Because at 20% threshold, that's ridiculous, right? And it has a 100% chance of placing a True Fear. And then at 5 star, it's 50% chance of placing a True Fear if the target survives from the Reaper, which is pretty crazy. Now, of course, you don't need accuracy, I don't believe, for this to land. So that's pretty fantastic. And then 10 speed at the end there, too. This one, I don't think this one deserves a nerf or a buff. I don't believe so. Like, this one does not deserve a nerf. Honestly, this one could get a buff, if anything. I don't think they're going to, but this one could get a buff. Like, change this resistance to 70, HP to additional 1,000 maybe. Then the Chaos, they definitely have to nerf this one. I've gone against people that have one person with sheep at like a 2-star blessing, and I just kept getting sheeped over and over and over. And I was like, are you sure this is only 5% chance? I think that's kind of ridiculous, especially when the meta is shifting over to really tanky defense teams nowadays. So super tanky defenses, more two macabres everywhere, stone skin everywhere, high resistance. So a lot of people probably are having struggles with this stone skin meta and high defense and high resistance. It's kind of ridiculous. Now, obviously, you could combat the high resistance with just an increased accuracy champion. I get that. But when you add this on top of it, when you're trying to debuff somebody, especially with like Ramantu or with, what's her name? Madame Ceres. So Madame Ceres places those debuffs, right? So if you have Madame Ceres or Ramantu trying to place those debuffs, it literally says right here, chance to place a sheep debuff on enemy for 2 turns whenever they place debuffs on this champion, or remove or steal. Okay, that's ridiculous. It can't be blocked or resisted, as well as placed on a boss. So obviously we don't expect a boss to be sheeped, but can't be blocked, can't be resisted. That's ridiculous. Champions under sheep debuff lose access to their normal skills, can only follow sheep skills, which is just attacks one enemy. Other sheeps will join the attack, but they hit extremely weak, right? Whenever a sheep debuff expires, they just come back to life at 50% HP. So in my opinion, I think sheep is a little bit overpowered right now. Maybe they drop this back to 10%, drop this to 5%, drop this to 2.5, drop this to 1%. I don't know. They just have to drop it lower. Or maybe they could do like, just make it so it can be blocked rather than resisted. So if they have like block debuffs buff on, maybe it can be blocked, but it is kind of crazy. I'm not sure how to fix this one here, but this is definitely one of the most powerful blessings in the game, especially for PvP. Also really good for PvE as well if they try to place debuffs on you or remove your buffs in general. So like content for faction wars, content for Doom Tower, right? Where those Torments are constantly placing freezes on you. So if they try to place the freeze, they're going to turn into a sheep. So it's a very, very powerful ability. Brimstone, also a very powerful ability. I have a really strange feeling about this, that they're going to nerf Brimstone, and I don't think they should. I don't think they should be nerfing this ability at all, because in PvP it's not that strong. I mean, you could make a case that yes, it's a little bit strong in PvP, but it's not strong enough to the point where like anybody who has this ability is just going to absolutely dominate an arena or anything like that. Plus, it's more helpful for PvE to help against bosses and things like that. So everybody loves this one. I think that most people, a majority of people, probably use Brimstone on most of their champions. And unless you're trying to farm or you're like super endgame platinum level, then probably you're going to be utilizing other blessings. But I don't know. I don't think that Smite is overpowered by any means. Plus, if you get a 6-star, the chances are so slim getting a 6-star blessing that you might as well let us have it. You know, don't nerf this. They should not nerf this. If they do, it should not go below 75% chance of placing a smite. This shouldn't go below 50%. This shouldn't go below 30%. This should stay at 20%. Okay, that if anything, if they do nerf it, they could nerf it to like 75%, the lowest, okay, for a 6-star blessing. But I don't think they should nerf it at all. What do you guys think about that? What do you think about other ones too? Like, also, Phantom Touch is a really strong ability. They might nerf this one potentially. It's definitely really strong for a rare blessing, and a lot of people use this because you can do a bunch of extra damage, especially to clan boss too. You could do a lot of extra damage to clan boss, but you could do like one person with Brimstone on your team that's legendary, and then one person or two people with Phantom Touch could do extra damage, which is nice because that extra attack and crit damage is really helpful, especially when you get a higher chance of inflicting second instant of bonus damage. But I don't think this is overpowered. All these other ones, I just don't think they're overpowered at all. So like the epics and the rares, other than Phantom Touch, like Miracle Heal needs a buff. I don't think it's really that great. I think it just needs to do more other than just healing back your destroyed HP. I think that's kind of stupid. Indomitable Spirit, chance of blocking any stun, sleep, fear whenever an enemy tries to place him on this champion. This should be buffed. 20% chance of blocking a debuff. That's terrible. Should be like 50%. If they're really trying to bring in RNG, right? 50%. Or 40%. And then having cast debuffs placed by this champion's default skill will ignore a percentage of the target's resistance. Okay? So anybody that has an A1 debuff, so champions like Martyr, champions like Mother Sabelli with the decreased speed, Martyr with the decreased defense, Arbiter with the weaken on the A1, it'll ignore if you get a 6-star, 40% of the target's resistance, which is not bad. But again, I don't think this is strong enough because this is mostly, I feel like this would be better on a support-based champion and not so much a damage dealer. I guess, well, now that I think about it, you could put this on like a Foley, but why would you even want to do that? You want damage, right? So if you bring them into arena, you're not going to use this ability anyways. Iron Will, decrease the damage this champion receives from enemy skills activated by other skills or when enemies inflict damage when it's not their turn. Meh, not that strong. It's only activated by other skills. Yeah, not really. I guess it does better against counterattacks. I guess it could do better against Cupidus because it says by other skills or enemies when enemies inflict damage when it's not their turn, so you can reduce 30% damage. This could be good against Cupidus, but it's not strong enough. It's only 30% damage mitigation. So again, that's just not I think that would deserve a nerf buff, if anything. Cruelty is a nice ability. Decrease target defense by 4% per hit, up to 40% for champions, up to 20% for bosses. That would actually be pretty insane on a Cupidus, because if Cupidus is going to continue to take turns, every single time you're going to decrease the target's defense. So eventually Cupidus is going to wipe you out. Nice ability there. I think that this should stay the way it is. It shouldn't go up or down. Lethal dose. Ignore 35% of each target's resistance when placing debuffs on enemy champions. Meh. This needs a buff, if anything. Accuracy and HP and attack. I think that one could deserve a buff. Commanding presence, not bad. Strengthen team's aura. It's basically the same thing as intimidating presence, except for epics. Chainbreaker. This one's okay. Chance of removing stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, or petrification debuffs placed on this champion only activates if this champion is under any of these debuffs. 3-turn cooldown as well. This is not overpowered by any means, should not receive a nerf. If anything, a buff. And then this last one, Crushing Rend, also strong. Good for nukers, especially if you're trying to use campaign farmers. Each round, a number of this champion's hits will ignore a percentage of the target's defense. Percentage of ignored defense depends on the level of target. So every awakening goes a little bit more and more. So if it's a 6-star, we'll ignore 1% defense for every 10 levels. So if you're in Nightmare campaign, ignore 10 levels, 1% of defense for every 10 levels, which is not bad. This last one, Incinerate, increases the damage inflicted by HP burn debuffs placed by this champion in arena. Increased damage from HP burn debuffs by 50%. Destroys enemy max HP when they receive damage from HP burn. But how much of the max HP? Oh, the max HP is destroyed by the same amount. Only works in arena, though. I don't know. I'm not sure if anybody out there has ever even used Incinerate. I've personally not used it. I don't think it deserves a buff. I think it's fine the way it is. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about that, though. Do you think that they're going to nerf Brimstone? Do you think that they're going to nerf the sheep ability? Just let me know. What do you guys think? Thank you so much for watching, by the way. Appreciate it. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on a video soon. Peace.